All right. Well, good evening, everybody. Yours truly, Ken Johnson, here with you, and we are tracking at least one severe thunderstorm warning in the area now. And now, I will say that the storm that has prompted the severe thunderstorm warning doesn't look quite as impressive as it did a few minutes ago here, but still, pretty strong-looking thunderstorm there, just near or just north of Burkburnett, right along the Red River, up closer to Randolette. And there's also another thunderstorm that's trying to develop on the backside of that one now. Just kind of monitoring the weather service from time to time here to see what the weather service is saying about it here. Rain-free base north of Burkburnett, approximately 3 miles, reported by spotters here. So we do got Cameron here that's out and about, and this is the storm we're watching. I can actually click on that, and you can see the storm. I mean, it looks like Cameron's a long way away from it, so and it's pretty hazy out there, so it's kind of difficult to see what's going on. Cameron says he's having some audio issues out there, so we can't take him. But he is in the Comanche Nation Entertainment First Alert Storm Tracker. He's out and about trying to take a look at this thing as we speak. But again, at least from that vantage point, doesn't look like a whole lot. But we are tracking. Looks like a couple storms now. We said we'd have a few, and the main storm we're tracking is this cluster that's just north of Burkburnett here at this hour. I'm going to change sources here so I can walk over onto the wall. So give me just a second here, if you will, please. And I'm going to have to do some finagling. So give me a second. Have to do some finagling. So give me a second, taking that off and putting that on. All right, so you should hear me now on the wall here. So I'm going to walk over to the wall, and if we kind of take a look here at this particular thunderstorm, what we have going on here is basically there's not a whole lot of moisture in the atmosphere, but it's beginning to increase some now. And we do got this warning out, and the warning is for primarily hail. So far, it looks like the hailstones within this storm is pretty small. I don't see anything that large. This is going to actually split what's going to happen with these. I actually see one, two, maybe three updrafts here within this storm area, and you can see Cameron's feet. Looks like he's got a pretty good shot of it there. I'll go to that in just a moment here, but there is your storm. What's going to happen is these are probably going to split. Oftentimes when you see multiple updrafts like this in one area, they'll split. That means this storm kind of moves to the left a little bit, and this one down here on the south end might move a little bit more to the right. Again, this storm is just a hair north of Burkburnett. Looks like Burke is maybe the northern side, very closer to the Red River. Still could be some rain or some small hail falling, but it looks like that's about out of here. But you got another storm coming up behind it that's between Electra and Iowa Park, and that will bring with it at least some small hail threats there as it makes its way to the east, up towards maybe Iowa Park, and then eventually into Burkburnett itself here. Could be some at least some small hail threats with that. We'll see if these can grow in intensity and perhaps maybe produce a larger hail threat. So far, while these are trying to become supercells, they're not quite supercells yet. You don't see the pronounced hook echoes with them just yet. They're trying. Again, there's three updrafts here, and there's one down to the south. They are pulling in that warm, moist air in from the Gulf of Mexico here, and these are all developing just kind of longer, just out ahead of the dry line. Not a lot of lightning showing up, and that tells me that these storms might be what we call low precipitation supercells or low precipitation thunderstorms. It means that they're producing more hail probably and small hail than heavy rain at this hour. But there's still going to be some downpours with it, but maybe not anything that's overly intense here at this time. I am going to watch this storm here. This has kind of got that elongated look between Electra and Iowa Park at this hour. These storms, as of right now, are not rotating much, but if they can last and can continue to maintain their intensity, I'd say over the next hour or so, and they can continue to move more over here up towards Stevens and maybe Jefferson County and maybe even the northern parts of Clay County, then you might see a somewhat of an increased threat for the spin to increase in the atmosphere. So you might see a slightly better chance for these to perhaps become tornadic, maybe the further east they get. But at least as of right now, hail is our primary concern from about Walters all the way down towards Randolette, just north of Burkburnett and kind of near the Duval area. These are lifting northeast up towards Walters. These are going to stay south and southeast of of the Lawton area. These are well north of Wichita Falls at this hour here. These will stay north of Charley and Petrolia. And at least initially, it looks like these storms will pass north of Waurika. But if they do turn to the right, and oftentimes supercells do, then Waurika could bid in on that as well here. And as far as this storm coming up behind it, that one will likely increase. The updraft will likely increase in intensity with that one too here. So we may see some hail threats north of Iowa Park or on the north side of Iowa Park, and that could also move up towards Burkburnett within the next 30 minutes or so. So we'll continue to watch these areas here pretty closely. I'm going to walk back over to my computer here, and we'll kind of broaden this thing out a bit and take a look and see. This is Cameron's shot. I don't have the audio up from him right now. Let me see if he happens to have said anything to me here. I guess he did get it fixed, so. And that's a pretty good view there. It looks to me like maybe these storms perhaps may be a little bit high-based, and you don't see a whole lot of rain coming out of them in those rain shafts there. So again, that tells me that these are a little bit on the low precipitation side just by looking at it. I don't see any lowerings in there, so I'm not too concerned about, at least as of right now, the tornado potential in those particular storms here. Let me take a look here and see if the Weather Service is saying anything here about any of these storms. So I don't really see any. Really discussion about those storms here at this point in time from the Weather Service. So we're going to continue to kind of monitor them. We'll kind of go back into the radar here, and if we look kind of off to the southwest, I'm trying to see if there's any more development. I don't really see any. What you're seeing here, those would be the wind farms there. I don't really see any other development taking place down south. There may be a little bit there trying to go up there west of Graham, but nothing yet. There's a little bit of a little small cell southwest of Lawton. Now, again, these thunderstorms here will probably pass southeast of Lawton, but they're headed right at Duncan. We'll have to wait and see if these show any signs of increasing rotation with them as they move to the northeast. As of right now, let's take a look and see if there is any spin in these storms at all. I don't think there is. If there is any, there's not much. You're looking kind of north of Burkburnett there. I don't really see anything yet that suggests that these things are rotating. So that is good news. You'd watch, you can kind of see where this little darker green area here is. That's kind of shows where there might be, I think that's kind of where you got your updraft there, would be in that part of the storm. Down to the south, I'm also watching this little area over here northwest of Iowa Park as that tries to intensify here a bit. These storms are north of Wichita Falls. They're going to pass well north of Wichita Falls here, which is some good news. We can take a look at the, it's hard to see anything from the tower cams right now. There's so much haze out there. And you see this oftentimes when you see this moisture come in from the Gulf. You see this moisture come in from the Gulf, and this is what you wind up seeing quite a bit here. So, Jeff up in the booth, we'll probably, if you can hear me, we'll probably plan to do a cut-in on News Channel 6 probably over the first national break after 7 o'clock. And it'll be, as of right now, just be kind of a quick little cut-in there. So. Nothing, not planning on staying on for a long period of time. There's just really not a reason to. So, but if you look, these storms continue to move northward. I mean, none of them look. At least these storms here don't look overly impressive. You don't see any big hooks on them at this time. You can look at the storm down to the south. That one looks a little bit better north of Iowa Park. It's about to brush Burkburnett shortly with some downpours and maybe some small hail. Then it'll jump over the Red River. You don't even see a lot of hail with these particular storms. You can kind of widen this and see there's not a whole lot. There's some up there in northern parts of Oklahoma, but there's not a whole lot other than these storms down to the south here to really kind of talk about at this hour. We can look at Cameron's feed. This is from the Comanche Nation Entertainment First Alert Storm Tracker, and I believe that Cameron is probably somewhere probably tracking north of the Red River there somewhere. You can kind of see the clouds off in the distance there. But again, a lot of haze, and he's going to have to basically get right up on it to really even be able to see it there because of all the haze in the atmosphere in the sky right now. And you see that when you get, like I say, you get all this moisture coming in from the Gulf here. So, but that is the feed there. Now, again, neither one of these storms are showing any signs of real rotation, but we'll watch them and see if the hail sizes can increase any as they try to make their way to the north and to the northeast here as they cross over into Oklahoma here at this time. So Candace Davis says it's starting to thunder in Walters. Yeah, you got some hail-producing storms in your area. Gina Gale says, will it hit Geronimo or go just south and east of us? That's a good question. I think just based upon this radar imagery here, Geronimo is basically kind of over in this area. Let me see if I know I can pull it up here on my. There's Geronimo. So if you look at that, it looks like Geronimo could get slapped there by the back edge of the northern thunderstorm with some brief showers or maybe even a little small hail. But the heaviest part of that's going to kind of move between Walters and Geronimo over the northeastern parts of Cotton County and extreme southeastern Jefferson County. It's actually going to head over into Stevens County here pretty shortly, and could be some hail threats up towards Marlow and perhaps Duncan. The stronger of the two storms is the southern one that's just north or just near Randelette at this hour here. There's likely at least some decent-sized hailstones in that as it makes its way kind of off to the north and northeast. And again, that will probably pass southeast of Geronimo, but headed right at Walters, right at Duncan, right at Comanche. And then you got the storm on the back end. To me, the storm on the back end actually looks the most impressive, even though it's not as strong as the storms to the northeast there. That storm's kind of got that elongated look to it, and it could be trying to develop into what we call a supercell. Now, a supercell thunderstorm is just going to be what you see here, individual thunderstorms, and the updrafts in the thunderstorms, they rotate and they become, well, they become super strong. So that's what we're looking at for supercells. But you've kind of got, this is a cluster. You got the northern cell, you got the southern cell. Typically speaking, the southern cell will be the one that will take over. You'll get a bit of a split. The one that's on the northern side will kind of split off and branch off and go north, mostly with the hail threat. And then you see, the southern cell is usually the one that is the most intense here. If you're in Burke Burnett, you probably have some showers kind of moving in your area at this hour. Maybe some small hailstones with some of that activity, and then we look kind of back behind it. I don't see anything else developing. So, we didn't think we'd see much, but there are a couple out there. Here is Cameron's feed. I'm not 100% certain where he's at this point in time. I just know that he's on those storms somewhere. I'll have to, pull some audio up of him, before too much longer. But it looks like Cameron's really just trying to position himself to get to where he can see these storms. And right now he's kind of a little bit out of position. So he'll get there eventually, though. With all the haze in the atmosphere, it's kind of difficult to kind of to do much storm chasing right now. So. I was reading Cameron's saying, he said full screen in my box should turn his mic on. So I don't know. I don't really have a lot of communication with him right now. So we'll try to pull him in a little bit more if these storms, if we get anything good there, we'll try to start pulling him in. It doesn't look like Cameron's quite in position just yet to really be able to see those thunderstorms. But again, Jeff, let's do a cut in first national break. First national break over the after 7 here. It looks like we finally got our crawl up and going. I'm glad to see that. Thank you, Mr. Chris Schumacher, for getting that problem fixed for us there. I guess we could do that. So, Jeff, if you're in the booth, I know. So when we do go to the cut in at 7 or whenever we do go on, I do want to make sure to take Cameron's feed there. So just to give you kind of a bit of a heads up. So, it still looks like Cameron's really just trying to kind of get into position here. So, but so far these storms are really, mostly just hail producers, and they're not really doing too much yet in terms of rotation and spinning. They're really not true supercells yet. They're just kind of trying to organize. But I will tell you, they are up against a bit of a cap here this season. It's like Cameron. I think that the direction that Cameron's moving. Looks like Cameron's moving north, so I'm going to guess and think that that's the storm to the south of him. He's got a good view of it there. That's probably the storm to the south that's coming up out of Wichita County, if I had to say so myself. You can kind of see the rain shaft there underneath it. Maybe a little small hail falling out of that particular storm there. So, but it does look like you might be trying to get a bit of a hook down there to the west of Burke. Are you ready? I'm ready whenever y'all are. Just give me the heads up. So, If you're watching here, you know, you can you know that we'll probably wind up going to dark, going to black here as we go to our Facebook, our News Channel 6 feed here. So if we do, just know that we'll be right back on. So don't go anywhere. We're going to stay on here. Since we got these storms out there, we're going to stay on here. We'll probably start getting some cameras involved as well. Some. Okay, that's fine. So. I'm going to look quickly at the velocities on here, see if there are any signs of rotation, and I still don't see any, which is good news. You know, I think in time, if they can survive, they will. There does appear to be maybe some type of rotation, maybe in this cell, maybe some very weak developing rotation, maybe just west of Burke-Burnett there with that. But, you know, it's going to have to intensify. And you do see some areas of maybe of some type of circulations, maybe down south of Walters, but nothing that I would consider, you know, alarming at this point in time, which that is good news. So these storms, they're still fighting up against a cap. There's a cap that's out there. Even though these storms have initially broken the cap, there is still a situation where there is a bit of a cap still in the atmosphere. And in time, the cap could increase again, and it could kill these some. But I really believe that storm that is kind of up north of Taylor is really starting to take off. You're kind of beginning to see that elongated look to it. It looks like it's about to develop into a supercell here. You know, and if that can happen, then we're going to have to worry about the possibility of rotation showing up here some as well. Looking down to the south, still not seeing anything developing down to the south here. The storm that's over Burke-Burnett appears to be maybe producing on the west side of Burke, maybe a little small hail, but nothing major at this time. I think the most intense storm on radar is the one between Burke and Walters. It's the middle storm. We'll see if the southern one can increase.
7 minutes from now.
All right, 7 minutes from now. There's Cameron's feed there, and I believe he is on the southern storm, and it looks like he, you know, there somewhere on the turnpike, looking southwest down towards the northern part of Wichita County. And that's the storm that's coming up just kind of west of Burke-Burnett. Just looking at that view at this hour, looks like, or this time, it looks like, again, kind of a little bit on the high base side. You got a decent rain shaft that may be producing some gusty winds and maybe some mostly small hailstones. I'm looking to see if the Weather Service has said anything about any of this stuff here yet. Let's see here. They did issue a bit. Storm south of Grand Forks is trying to get its inflow increasing, watching closely. So they are watching the potential for that storm. The Weather Service is saying, they mentioned in the storm that's we've been kind of looking at here, the storm that's kind of the middle storm. It said it's getting its act together and inflow is increasing. So it's this storm between Randelette and Walters that does appear to be increasing some. And yeah, the Weather Service said that as well here. Oh, I do see a little shower now that's popped up there over Archer City. So yeah, one of my viewers on Facebook said, hey, look at that little shower developing. And there it is towards Archer City there. So this will, I don't know that this will increase in intensity, but the way the movements are of these storms, these showers, if it does increase in intensity, there could be a threat for some rain and maybe a downpour maybe in Wichita County from this storm here, as it makes its way northward, maybe Lakeside City, maybe into southeastern parts of Wichita Falls, and maybe even over here towards Dean and Charlie, Petrolia, these areas, and maybe even Henrietta. So we'll watch this updraft here near Archer City as it lifts north. The way things have happened, they happen quickly, pretty unstable out there, quite a bit of energy to feed into these. So as they develop pretty fast. So we could see this go in a hurry if it follows suit from the storms from earlier, the ones that are up to the north there. Continuing to watch Cameron's feed here. It looks like mostly just heavy downpours with that at this hour. Looks like, you know, the storm to me near Burke-Burnett just looks like it's kind of rounded off. It's kind of looks like maybe just kind of a bit of a hail producer there. Maybe a little bit of a hook, but not as much. I still think the most impressive storm on radar is probably this one. that's north of Taylor, and this is kind of impacting the eastern parts of Cotton County. So if we kind of take a look here, there is a bit of rotation showing up there. It's not organized, but the storm is trying to get organized kind of between Temple and Walters. A little bit of a spin there. We can go down, and I do see rotation there. Nothing significant, but there's a little bit of spin showing up just northwest of Burke-Burnett, and that's going to be crossing over the Red River here shortly. We've got a bird's eye view of it from Cameron's tower cam here. This is it, or not tower cam, the tracker cam. And as you can see, no wall cloud on it yet, but the storm does have a little bit of rotation in it. Looks like it's got some heavy downpours and maybe even a little small hail showing up in that. So we'll see if the rotation on that one can increase any at all. And you can see the little updraft there that's just kind of north of Archer City. It has not increased yet in intensity at all. So that's good news. Maybe it won't do anything. The capping may be a little bit stronger down there. In fact, just on some of the latest radar scans, it looks like so what you may wind up happening, it kind of looks like the Burke-Burnett storm may be trying to weaken a bit. But sometimes, and I'm not saying that that's going to happen with this, as these storms, they try to organize a bit. Sometimes you'll see them begin to link up, and as they link up, the updraft becomes one, and that's when they really become strong. So we'll have to see if the Burke-Burnett-Randelette storm can kind of merge with the one up to the north that's just kind of south of Walters. Right now it's mostly a bit of a hail threat with those particular storms here. Again, we're not seeing a lot in the way of rotation with them at this particular time. There's a little bit of spin on them, but not a whole lot. If the longer these storms can persist into the evening, the more likely it is they're going to start becoming tornadic at some point in time here. But a lot of weather information tries to weaken these storms quite a bit. In fact, if you look, the storm that's the northern cell, we call that kind of a little bit of a left split, it appears to be weakening. There are some downpours and maybe some very small hail in that as it kind of crosses over into Stevens County. These storms are moving really fast here as it moves over into Stevens County and kind of moves over Duncan here. The storm that's trying to get a little more intense is kind of south of Walters and north of Taylor. That storm's kind of slowed down a little bit, but you can really see that thing kind of elongating out. I believe we got a supercell developing there. And we'll see what happens with this storm. It's kind of between Burke-Burnett and Randelette, and the shower that developed north of Archer City is weakening pretty quick. Looks like the cap is probably getting that one pretty good. I'm going to switch sources here, and you can see how the upper level cap really ate that one up pretty fast. Oftentimes what happens with these storms, I'll walk over to the wall and kind of talk about it some. Oftentimes what happens with these storms is you'll get them and they'll develop down our way, and there'll be hail producers down here because they developed kind of right on top of us here. But as they make their way to the north and northeast, oftentimes they begin to encounter a more favorable tornado environment as they get up here closer to Interstate 35 and then kind of up there closer to Norman and on the southeast side. This is just kind of a favorable area for tornadoes. This is just, it seems like every time we get severe weather, that's where they produce the tornadoes. So we'll watch these. They're hail producers now. If the cap doesn't win out, and even though it looks like, and we hear me talk about the cap is kind of broken. These storms did break the cap. They were able to generate, thunderstorms here. But as we get into the evening, and there's a new severe thunderstorm warning, and I believe it's for this northern cell, and that would be some hail on the northwest side of Stevens and the extreme eastern parts of Comanche County here. But if these storms can continue to maintain themselves, especially this one might become a bit of more of a tornado concern as it gets kind of up into this area, maybe on the other side of Highway 81 here, maybe up near Duncan or northeast of Duncan. But again, as the cap increases, again, after dark, you don't get that daytime heating. There isn't a lot of what we call dynamical lift in the atmosphere down our way. So there's a chance that these could begin to diminish some over the next several hours, and then that would kind of eliminate the tornado threat. But if these updrafts can remain strong enough and can feed off of this increasing moisture over this way, it offsets the cap. It offsets that warm air above the Earth's surface, and they'll maintain the intensity, and they'll continue to be rather strong. All right, we're about to do our cut in here, so that's coming up here in about less than 30 seconds. So give me a second. I'm going to kind of zoom in this a little bit here, and we're not going in long, so we won't be on for a long time on News Channel 6, but we are going to be at least doing a cut in here shortly. And looks like that storm north of Burke-Burnett's got a little bit of a hook on it now too, or developing one here, and Cameron's got some good looks at it, so we'll show him here in a moment. So All right, here's a quick weather update for you. Severe thunderstorm warnings. These are mostly hail producers now, but they are really beginning to show signs of increasing in intensity and in organization here. We got one warning that's going to be crossing Highway 81 near and just northwest of Duncan, Oklahoma. This is a smaller hail-producing storm. It is moving off to the northeast, moves across northwestern Stevens County. We look down to the south. This storm that's just southeast of Walters, this is really increasing in intensity now, and some very large hailstones likely being generated by this storm east of Walters. This too is heading into Stevens County. This is becoming a supercell here, and we are seeing some signs of a little bit of rotation. And if this storm can continue to show signs of organization and continue to organize itself and continue to be strong, this may become a tornado producer maybe as it makes its way over into parts of Stevens County or even up to the northeast. Also watching another severe thunderstorm just north of Burkmanette. This storm is generating at least some hail threats. It's kind of following in the same track that these storms up towards Walters and west of Duncan is following as well here. So we can go to Cameron in the Comanche Nation Entertainment First Alert Storm Tracker. And Cameron, I believe that you're tracking the southern storm. Is that correct here?
Yeah, Ken, that is correct. I am tracking that southern storm, kind of sandwiched in between both storms. And I'm watching that storm that's up near Temple at this current time. Looks like it could be putting down some big-time hail. But after this one that's north of Burkmanette, just leaving Wichita County, that's the one that's like basically right on our rear ends right now. So we're keeping on that one right now. So what we're doing right now is kind of pacing myself to be able to play both storms. Now, I'm further behind the storm near Temple, obviously, but this storm that's coming out of Wichita County, that one we're just about, not underneath, but we are just to the east of it. So it's something that we can watch, closely as we continue to also kind of keep pursuit of the storm near Temple. So we are going eastbound on 70 East, I-70 East, and just north of Red River. We're going towards the Waurika area, but again, just kind of keeping our pace with the storm that is behind us. We're going to keep an eye on that. We do have plenty of north options to cut into that storm, so we'll keep an eye on that, Ken. But the big thing right now I'm noticing is these cloud bases are still pretty high at this time. Temperatures right now are in the lower 80s with dew points only getting to the low 60s. 63 degrees our dew point now with an air temperature of 82 degrees. So the moisture is starting to increase, which does help these storms continue to grow, but it's still a little low for where we'd like them to be in terms of severe weather potential. So we'll keep an eye on it, Ken, and keep you updated as we continue to chase these storms down, and we'll keep you updated, Texoma.
All right, so again, we're tracking these storms. They're hail threats right now. As you heard Cameron say, there's not a lot of moisture out there with these yet, but that'll increase. But it'll probably increase just as about the time they get out of our area. So this will probably be more of Oklahoma City's problem than ours. But we'll keep an eye on them. Again, hail threats. Duncan, northwest of Waurika, down into Walters, Cotton County, and just north of the Red River, north of Burkmanette. We're on Facebook Live right now if you want to continue to watch weather coverage. All right, tell Jeff, to make sure we're also on the 24/7 web app or whatever we do, wherever we're at. So make sure we're on there at the same time now. So.
Do you want to be on 24/7 right now?
Yeah, just go ahead and put us on there. We're on Facebook, and we'll do 24/7 as well. So.
He's doing that right now. He can hear you.
Oh, okay, good. So, and we'll probably take Cam some more here too as well. So, but anyway. All right, well, I do appreciate you guys in the continuing to stick with us here as we are tracking these storms here tonight. The good news is if you are down in North Texas, you are actually in pretty good shape right now. I do not, I'm going to increase the radar sensitivity. You can see that one little cell tried to develop down into Archer City, but the cap won on that one. The atmosphere never just overly favorable for a lot of storms today, and what few storms could develop are up here. So as of right now, North Texas is okay. We'll see if anything else can get going over the next several hours, but it looks like at least for now, the main game is going to be the storms up here to the north. Now, one thing that you may wind up seeing is these storms, the one that's north of Duncan, that's going to continue to move north and kind of up towards north of Duncan, and eventually that'll track kind of east of Chickasha and kind of up towards Purcell. The other storm would be this middle storm. That looks like a supercell to me. It's The updraft itself is probably going to go near or just southeast of Walters. And then you get down to the south and you've got the other one. Now, it looks to me like this storm, too, the one that Cameron's on, may be trying to split as well. There could be a couple updrafts in that one. And, if that happens, what you do is you'll wind up seeing the northern part of the cell turn a little bit to the left, and the southern one kind of either continues on its trajectory or it begins to turn a little bit to the right here. But as of right now, these thunderstorms here are not really showing much in the way of rotation. It's like Cameron said, the atmosphere is not overly favorable for tornadoes right now. It's mostly, at least for this time, it's mostly a hail threat. We can take a look at the velocities, the wind velocities in the storm here, and I don't see any signs of organized rotation here. And I do believe it's probably because we don't have a lot in the way of significant moisture out there. Now, the moisture levels will be increasing tonight, but I think a lot of that will take place once these storms are kind of just out of our viewing area here. And that would be kind of, just kind of up towards the I-35 area and up towards Oklahoma City. Now, there's Cameron's feed, as you can see there. And from Cameron's feed, those storms appear to be pretty high base. Let's take Cameron, and I guess we can probably, I can probably go back to radar here. Let's go to Cameron's feed, Jeff, if we could. Let's go to the Comanche Nation Entertainment First Alert Storm Tracker here. And Cameron, it looks like those are some pretty high bases, storm bases out there.
Yeah, Ken, I definitely agree. These storm bases are definitely pretty high. I just talked about it during our cut-in, but your temperatures right now in the air are reading the lower 80s, while dew points are still sitting in the lower 60s at this time. And like you've been talking about, we do expect that moisture to increase later on, but with that spread in the temperature, between temperature and dew point, the further that spread, the higher the cloud bases are going to be. So with that being said, yes, we do have higher cloud bases because of that. The tornado risk is definitely a bit lower right now. However, we are watching for is we're watching both these storms. I don't say we're abandoning the storm near Walters, but we're kind of playing the storm that's north of Randelette this time right now is the way we're playing this storm chase right now, because you were also talking about this, but it could be trying to go through a splitting process. And something that I'm not crazy on is, with the way the storm, the upper level winds are carrying these storms, a lot of the downdraft and the cooler air from this storm is going to, I think, eventually bleed into that middle supercell, which could hurt that storm as well. So we're scraping just along the river at this time. We're going towards Eureka. What I'm about to do though is make a cut a little bit north, because thankfully, due to the Oklahoma road network being a grid style, we have that way to go north, east, southwest, which is very favorable for storm chasing. So the way we're playing this though is that if it does take a right split, we'll be able to move right parallel with it, and if not, obviously we do have more north options. So right now we're actually making this turn right now to start going north, and we'll be able to cut it off as it continues to push off to the northeast. So Ken, we'll keep an eye on it. Nothing I've seen so far, we haven't seen too much, but nothing I've seen at this current time is really overly concerning. Obviously it looks like there could be some big time hail on radar, but in terms of looking at the sky, nothing too scary looking out there. All these cloud bases are really high up there, Ken, which again does help to mitigate that tornado risk.
It's like you got a bit of like you say, it's kind of the higher base, but it looks like you do got a mesocyclone there. I mean, you can almost see it.
Yeah, it looks like there's been attempts to see these storms organize further, but again, it's just so high up, and then you combine the factor that it is really pretty hazy out here at this time as well, so your viewing distance isn't as great. Now, it looks like the viewing conditions are getting a bit better, but kind of like you were talking about earlier, you kind of almost have to be right underneath these storms to get a true view of these. And we're coming up on, basically the best way to put it, we're kind of scraping the downdraft of that further, the storm that's furthest south at this time, so we're kind of pushing to that. But what's going to happen here is probably about the next 20 to 30 minutes, we'll see the core of that storm scrape just north of us, and we'll be able to keep up with that storm. So I haven't seen anything that has jumped out to me and looked like a mesocyclone to me. We've seen plenty of vertical growth with these storms, but in terms of general storm structure, I've yet to see anything that's had me overly worried or been like, hey Ken, we've got a mesocyclone out here, or a wall cloud, or even worse, a funnel cloud. So not too much going on though, but we'll keep an eye on it, as obviously we're still not far from the storm. We're just kind of waiting for the storm to cross our path at this current time, Ken.
All right, let's go back to the radar here. And one thing, if you look at it, you can kind of observe this. We've got 3 cells. I think that the northern cell up towards Marlow is pretty weak. I'm not too concerned about it. But then you jump down here. This is the middle cell. But as you heard Cam say a minute ago, this is what we call the forward flank downdraft of the thunderstorm here. And remember, a thunderstorm, especially a supercell, it needs to feed off that thunderstorm, that energy in the atmosphere for that updraft to continue to grow. And it does that with that warm, moist air flowing upwards. It's called inflow into the thunderstorm here. And it looks like the anvil, or maybe the forward flank of the storm to the south, is starting to move into that inflow area of the middle storm. So that may be why it may be showing some signs of shrinking here a bit. Still a bit of a hell threat east of Walters. But the one down to the south, typically speaking, when you look in your storm chaser, this is what storm chasers like to do. They like to chase on the southern part of the cell. That's the southern cell, because there's nothing that's going to choke off that warm inflow into that updraft so it doesn't kill it. So if I'm out chasing like Cam is doing, you're going to be probably on this storm. And it looks like it is really trying to grow a bit here. And, you could wind up seeing this storm to the north weaken a bit, or it could get absorbed by the storm to the south here. So we'll keep an eye on that. But it's mostly just a hail producer at this point in time. It is, there are some reports, I got viewers on Facebook Live anyway, that are talking about how there are some reports of at least some half-dollar size hail, the largest report I've seen so far in these storms there. And there's Cameron again. His feed looks like Cameron's in the process of trying to get organized and trying to get to a spot where he can see some things here, but kind of in the trees at this point in time. We'll stay out of that. Let's do a little storm analysis here, and again, I do not see any sign of significant rotation in these thunderstorms here. That is definitely some good news. When a thunderstorm is organizing, it'll begin to spin, and there could be still some spin in it, but a lot of the spin is probably in the updraft there. It's up above the Earth's surface. It's in the cloud itself. It's in the storm itself. You don't really worry about tornadic stuff until the storm, till that spin can drop down below the cloud itself, the cloud base itself. And in this particular image, I just don't really see any of that. Looking down to the south, there's nothing else that's popping. Somebody did ask, so is Wichita Falls in the clear? I'm not ready to sound the all clear here just yet. Let's look at the latest. This is the latest HRRR computer model, which I'll tell you folks, this has not been real good. And if you look, this is at 7 o'clock. This was an hour ago, and it's not that far off, but it has too many storms. It had maybe a few bit too many storms, but I'm not going to sound it all clear until we get a little bit later on this evening here, because there's still a chance that something could pop down to the south, but I don't know. It just appears to be a bit off to me. At least that particular run of it looked a little bit off. But you can look to the south, and there's just not anything going on down to the south here at this time. Our whole thing has been, we're worried. We're just going to keep an eye. It looks like we may have a little bit of a lowering there. So let's take Cameron's feed again, if we could here. Let's go to Cameron again. Cameron, do we got a lowering there to the left? Is that what we're seeing?
No, I'm not seeing any lowering at this current time. We're about to kind of push into the core of this storm, not necessarily go into it, but we're about to start getting ourselves in a spot to where it's going to scrape right past us. But you're seeing some rain shafts at this current time, and one of the big things I've noticed too, Ken, is we're starting to see an uptick with the lightning. So that, usually you start to see more lightning. That does tell us, there's a bit more growth going on with this storm. So we've seen an uptick, especially with the cloud to ground lightning at this time. But it's the way it's structured right now. It's not the best to be able to see into right now. But where we are set up, GPS wise, is we have a pretty good shot where when this does go by, we're about maybe 5-10 minutes away from this passing right by us, and they'll be able to keep moving with it. But nothing I'm seeing at this time that's worth reporting, Ken. But we're probably going to park for a second or two, let this thing get a little closer, and then keep our movement going forward, because we're going north right now, about to have an intersection and go north or east, and then we'll kind of let this thing move. Oh boy, wow, look at that lightning. That's good lightning. Yeah, like I just said, the lightning is definitely upticking as well. So you're seeing more vertical growth with it, Ken. So we'll keep an eye on it, and I'll let you know if there's anything that's worth sharing.
Yeah, so we're back over to the radar here, and again, these storms are kind of merging a bit. They're kind of merging, and I do believe that the middle cell is going to be absorbed by this bigger cell to the south. That's what it looks like to me. And as that happens, you'll either see one of two things happen. It'll either be a situation where the storm intensifies as it gobbles up the other one. We'll get one dominant supercell, or it'll be a situation where everything just kind of falls apart. You know, it looks to me like everything is still trying to organize, and it looks like the storm, and it may be the main storm, and it could wind up being the only game in town here pretty soon, will be the southern storm, the one that Cameron is on. Cameron, that looks like a wall cloud to me. Are you sure that's not a wall cloud there?
I'm positive. I'm positive it's not a wall cloud.
Okay.
I'm not
so
seeing anything that gives
what is that? It's kind of a bowl shape. What is that then we're looking at there?
It looks like it's not necessarily. That's not RFD. I tell you what, Ken. I'm gonna pull over here and hop out for a second, get a better look at it. But come back to me in like 30 seconds, Ken.
All right, so we'll go back to Cameron in about 30 seconds. That just looks like maybe some type of a lowering there, almost like a mesocyclone or something. Yeah, you can almost see the kind of the striae. There's definitely, to me, looks like lowering in that point in time. Wherever that is, it looks to me like there's lowering, and that's going to be Cameron on that southern storm. But you know, I still don't see any significant rotation in it though. I mean, it could just be trying to organize some. But you know, what to see if these storms even last much longer. You know, there are some indications that the storms could wind up trying to weaken some. You know, just have to kind of wait and see if what kind of organization they can do, what kind of organization can take place with these thunderstorms here, or if they're going to diminish. But these are well north of the Red River as of right now, and I'm not ready to sound all clear yet, but I do believe down here in North Texas we're going to be okay. It looks like these storms, you know, they're behaving themselves. As of right now, there's a couple things that's working against them that's keeping them from really becoming really scary and really nasty at this point in time. And that's two things. Number one, it's the moisture content isn't incredibly high. And then number two, you got a bit of a cap in the atmosphere that may be trying to chew on them a bit here. Let's go back to Cameron. Cameron, so is that what is that? Is that a low? What lowering is that there? Have you determined?
No, Ken, it looks like a lowering on the camera. The camera was deceiving. I looked at the camera and then obviously got out and looked at it. There's no lowering. I really don't know necessarily exactly what it is. It just looks like it's just, you know, it's the southern tail of the storm is what that is, but it's nothing that is lowering from the cloud base. But the big tidbit I want to add right now, Ken, we talked about the moisture for a little bit now. Our moisture is sitting at 65 degrees for our dew point, and air temperature is now down to 75 degrees. So now we're seeing that spread close rather quickly at this current time, which does allow these storms to potentially get closer to the Earth's surface. So cloud base is probably going to start to become, becoming lower here soon. But with that, what you're seeing on the camera, it's not a lowering. It looks like it on the camera, but I promise it's not lowering. It just looks like it's just a dark cloud. It's just a scary looking cloud. Best way to put it.
To me, but you're the storm chaser. You're out there. You know more than I'm not a storm chaser, so I'm not there. So there, yeah, it just looks like there might be a little bit of condensation there. But we'll check back in with you here in a minute. All right, so back over to the radar we go here, and we're going to keep an eye on that. These storms, again, they're just not, with this merger taking place with the middle storm and the southern storm, you know, you could be seeing some organization try to take place here with these thunderstorms, or they may be trying to, you know, try to organize a bit, but so far they're not taking off here. And again, it's two things. It's the moisture content, but now that you heard Cameron say the dew point temperatures are going up, they're in the mid 60s now, so that's no longer an issue here. But there is a bit of a cap. Now they haven't gotten the cap hadn't worn out yet, hadn't chewed them up yet here. But you know, the cap is, you know, it's like it's got teeth, and it'll chew on these thunderstorms here, and eventually it could cause them to weaken here some. But again, you do got a bit of what looks like a bit of a hook on the back side of this, trying to develop south of Walters. You got hail threats over here into the western parts of Stevens County, west of Duncan and Comanche. Now the threat for hail, you know, maybe up to nickel, maybe quarter size is going to increase in Duncan here shortly. And you may wind up seeing a merger between these two storms here too. And there is a bit better what we call backing with the winds over here out of the south-southeast. And there's a little bit more spin in the atmosphere. And as these storms can interact with that spin, if they can survive and the cap doesn't eat them up, then there is a chance that they could begin to start to rotate a little bit. But thankfully so far, what we've just seen is these storms are hail producers, and they're not tornado producers. I believe that if the moisture content had been a bit higher in them further to the west, then we'd probably be looking at maybe some tornadic type activity with this activity here. Now that it's getting into that, it's going to take it a little bit of time for it to really get its act together. And if it can survive, you may wind up seeing that once it gets just east of Duncan and east of I-81 when that happens. But there is a chance that it could begin to spin up. We'll just have to kind of wait and see. It looks like the lightning may be decreasing a little bit in this back storm, and if that's the case, then that might be showing signs that it might be weakening a bit. So, and the storm north of it could be gobbling it up. It's just so many variables, and when we're on talking about severe weather, a lot of what you hear me doing is thinking out loud here. I'm doing analysis in my head, and I've seen so many of these storms. I've been doing this a long time. I've seen so many of these storms that, you kind of start to understand what they look like, and you kind of get an understanding for what they're probably going to do here. But again, you have to kind of do some thinking out loud here to see what's going to happen here. But this storm, the middle storm, still doesn't look bad. It's still got some decent hail. It's got a decent updraft. Your updraft in it's going to be about right in this area there. That's where you're spinning. But again, this what we call the forward flank, or the amble range from the storm to the south, basically, it's starting to ingest that. I would think some rain-cooled air. And you can see the core values in these storms southeast of Walters has really come down a lot. So, we'll see if this one begins to perk back up here. It may not. We'll see if it kind of merges with the storm to the north and we wind up seeing just a bigger thunderstorm complex. But it looks like this is going to go northwest of Waurika. Waurika, I think you're going to be okay. This would be Lake Waurika, and they are kind of moving over the northern side of the lake. These are well southeast of Lawton. Lawton, you're in a good place. You're in good shape at this point in time. But look for the hail threats to increase in Duncan here shortly, most of which going to be kind of on the order of maybe some nickels and quarter-size hail with that as it makes its way to the north and northeast. I'm going to walk back over here and see if there's any sign of these storms starting to spin a little bit. So let's go back to Cameron. Cameron, I believe what you're seeing is an updraft. Do you think that? I think that this is a low precipitation thunderstorm. I think it's an LP storm, and I think you're seeing an updraft. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's possible. Where we are at, position-wise on this storm is, I think we are positioned where this is trying to get an updraft going. I took another look at what that big, scary-looking cloud was we had on camera about 5 minutes ago, and what I think is, you're seeing a good amount of moisture flowing in, because you're seeing some scud flowing in on the backside of the storm from the south. So you're starting to see this thing really start to kind of ingest some of that moisture right now. So I think that's what we're seeing. I think we're trying to see this begin to organize a bit of an updraft finally. And with that being said, we're going to continue to keep an eye on it right now. It's still hazy out here, but the dew points are still continuing to rise, and we're going to keep watching. We're moving basically just south there. We're moving parallel with this storm. It does have a bit of a northeast motion. You're still seeing plenty of cloud to ground lightning. It's actually the first strike in a while. Excuse me. Scratch that quote. But the lightning did take our break, but now we just saw a pretty good cloud to ground lightning. So maybe we're starting to see organization of an updraft once again. So we're on pace to be within tempo here soon. And with that being said, we'll be there soon. But we're going to continue to keep an eye on this, Ken, as we continue to push eastward right now. But we're going to, like I said, just scrape parallel this thing right now.
All right, Cameron. We'll continue to kind of keep an eye on things here, but. Just looking at the radar again, we'll have to just kind of wait and see how all this plays out. But it looks like there's a bit of a weakening trend with these two thunderstorms here. I definitely think that they're trying to merge, but we'll have to see how it all plays out. But the cat may be starting to chew on these a bit too. They've kind of gotten away from their source, which is the dry line. So they could be beginning to show signs of weakening. Because if you can see, look at the northern cell. How it's just gotten chewed up pretty quickly. There's not much left of it. Then you get down here to the south, and these storms are still there, but they're not as impressive as they were. You can look on the velocities, and a lot of times it'll tell you what's going on with the thunderstorms. And you do see some. I do see some what we call updraft spin in it, but that's well above the Earth's surface, and these storms are showing no signs of becoming tornadic at this point in time. So that is certainly some good news here. Going to read and see if there's anything coming in from the Weather Service and see if there's anything to report. And we'll try to answer some questions from our viewers as well here. All right. Now I'm going to try to answer some questions here. All right. So, and I know I do apologize to you that's asking questions on Facebook. I'm focused in on the storms to the north, and the reason I'm not talking about storms in your area is because there are no storms there, and I'm just not really seeing much of a sign that there's any storms down that way here. So Candace Davis, she's the one that reported the hail a short while ago. She reported some decent sized hail. Well, Peggy says I'm scaring people. I mean, I'm actually doing the same thing that I always do. I'm saying the same things. I'm not doing anything. I think I'm giving you good detailed analysis. I haven't said anything on here that would that should be overhype. I really don't. Sorry if you've taken it that way, but I don't believe that I have. So, matter of fact, I feel like I've done the opposite. So again, a lot of what you say, a lot of what I'm saying is that these storms are actually look like they're weakening, in my opinion. Wendy wants to know, will these storms lessen the storm threats overnight tonight? I don't know that we're going to see a lot overnight. A lot of the weather information is trying to suggest that we may not wind up seeing much in the middle of the night, but we'll have to kind of wait and see. Now, I will say this. I was just looking at the visible satellite imagery, and there's a storm that has developed down to the south here, and it's lifting northward here. So somebody asked me about Jacksboro. Now, you got a thunderstorm that's developed down near Abilene along Interstate 20. That storm is lifting to the northeast, and on that track, this storm is going to move east of Breckenridge and head right at PK, Possum Kingdom Lake, and southeast of Graham. And if it holds together, it could wind up threatening Jacksboro here maybe in a couple of hours, if it holds together, that is. It's something about this area down near Abilene, or just in that vicinity. No matter what, when we get storms along the dry line, it always seems like a storm develops down there. And these are the storms that usually wind up producing those big hailstones. Everybody's been more focused on Oklahoma and all those areas, and that's got a pretty impressive look on that storm down to the south of Breckenridge here. But that's something we may have to keep an eye on for a little bit later on this evening, if it can hold together and it doesn't fall apart here. It could. I mean, it just depends on how everything kind of evolves here. So back on our storms up to the north here, just continues to mostly be hail threats here. You got some hail threats into Duncan, and we're still watching the storm on the back end, kind of just east of Walters. Nothing that's showing signs of being too significant. But there is perhaps maybe a little rotation trying to show up in this storm now, kind of between Walters and Comanche. And nothing organized at this point in time, but you do have a little bit of a spin showing up back in there. It doesn't look like it's much to it, though, but that is something I certainly would kind of keep an eye on. But again, these are not these storms right now are remain just mostly hail producers. They're really not showing signs of becoming tornadic at this point in time. But of course, we'll be keeping an eye on that, making sure that it doesn't do that at some point in time as well here. So this is Cameron's feed. Looking at the cloud bases, they do appear to remain fairly high. I don't see any lowerings, nothing that shows signs of organization. And it may not do, if it can survive, it may not do it. It may not get much organization till it gets maybe after dark, And at that point in time, it's harder to see things. Of course, we do some storm chasing at night because Cameron loves it. Matter of fact, let's go to Cameron. Let's check in with him. Cameron, what are you seeing out there in your in the storm tracker?
Ken, about as much as I was seeing about 10 minutes ago or 5 minutes ago, whenever you took me last. But right now we just pulled north out of Temple, so now we're going straight north right back after this thing again. So we're kind of on the backside of it once again. But the big thing I noticed, I don't know if you noticed this too, but after it completed that little merger with that middle storm, or it looks like it still might be in the process of merging, actually it might be merging with that storm off the northeast now, but it ate up that middle storm. And I don't know if you noticed this too, but it kind of sped up. So the storm's moving a little bit faster than it was earlier, but you know, in terms of what we're seeing, it's still about the same. We're kind of on the backside of it. Nothing I can see from now, it looks lower. I mean, it looks like there's still, you know, some pretty good vertical growth to it, but I really think that this cap is really making things difficult on these storms. With that being said, it's probably not able to access what's, you know, the better stuff at the Earth's surface right now, but we should be back under this thing within the next 10 or so minutes, I'd say, and then we'll have a better visual. But just watching, it just looks like it's still a bit of an elevated hail producer at this time. Nothing tornadic that I can see from afar at this time, but that's the latest, Ken.
You know, I don't know if you heard me talking about it, but there's a storm down there to the south of Graham now that's developed, that one lone isolated cell. So, you know, if it can continue, you may want to think about, you know, taking a turn and looking to the south a bit too, if that storm does indeed kind of head to the northeast. But as of right now, it's not showing signs of doing that. But, you know, I'm going to continue to say these storms up here into Oklahoma are getting, I believe they're just getting chewed up by the cap. They're just, they just really haven't, they really just haven't, they just never have had that look to them. You know, it's basically just kind of a cluster of thunderstorms, hail-producing thunderstorms, and they just really haven't gotten their act together. They still could, but they probably won't do so until they kind of get out of our area, and we'll have to see if they can survive, you know, the onslaught of cooler temperatures after dark. You know, moist air will continue to flow in from out of the Gulf here, so they may continue to go. We'll have to just kind of wait and see. Now, in Duncan, you probably got some hail falling over you now, most of which is probably somewhere nickel size, maybe some quarter size hail over you. We can look at the velocities, and there's no signs of rotation over the Duncan area, so that's good news. No signs of really any significant rotation south of there as well. You know, I do see a little bit of the reds and the greens kind of mixing up together there. But that basically is just kind of showing, you know, what I believe is just kind of the updraft that's spinning some. And the updrafts, they just, you know, any thunderstorm to develop has an updraft. But supercells, especially when you have wind shear present, will cause those updrafts to spin a bit. And I do believe that you may be seeing a little bit of a spin up there, you know, kind of west of Coram and kind of southwest of Gas City. But, you know, nothing right now that looks too impressive. But, you know, those storms are kind of merging together over Stevens County. We'll just have to see if they can, if they will continue to merge and organize, or if they begin to weaken some. But right now, Stevens County, you're the main game, a main game in town there. The thunderstorms are moving out of Cotton County. Still a little hail there on the border of Cotton and Stevens County, kind of northwest of Coram and north of Lake Waurika there. But still some heavy rain and hail over Duncan, you know, and that's going to kind of move, and it looks like that will continue here for a while. There may be a little bit of a let up in some of the hail and heavy rain in Duncan, but then you got the storm coming in from the southwest that might give you a little bit of a knock of hail as well here, maybe after 8 o'clock or so. So, you know, that's what we're going to kind of continue to keep an eye on here. And there's the tracker. Very high base thunderstorms here. These have been they've kind of looked moisture starved at times here today. So hopefully these storms will continue to show signs of weakening. You can see the one that headed up towards Oklahoma City. It fell completely apart there. We can even look north. You know, there's some storms up here in northern parts of Oklahoma. I know that that storm chaser Reed Timmer's up there chasing on that cell, and you know, that could wind up becoming a tornado producing cell over southeastern parts of Kansas. But that's a long way away from us, and we're not worried about that one. We look down to the south, and then there's a storm kind of north of Interstate 20. Kind of got a pretty mean look to it. Got what we call a flying eagle, because it almost looks like you got some wings that spread out from it there. But you know, that's the type of a storm that it could wind up getting chewed up by the cap as well, you know, over the next several hours before it makes its way up towards us. You can even kind of go south of there. There's a little one kind of south of there as well, but. You know, they're kind of widespread. They're kind of, you know, spread out pretty far apart. And I don't see anything else showing signs of developing down our way. I'm looking at the satellite. Of course, as we get dark here, the visible satellite no longer does me any good, because the visible satellite is a, you know, it's basically taking an image of what's going on right now, and it uses the, you know, the sunlight from outer space to be able to kind of show the cloud bases and whatnot. So I don't see anything developing up our way, but I'll watch and see if that down there towards, you know, down towards Abilene, if it can continue to do anything. Right now, it just doesn't really look like much, you know, and these storms kind of moving through Stevens County don't look like much more than just hail producers as well. And you can kind of look at the feed there. Pretty storm. No doubt about it. Cameron, a pretty good looking storm, man. It's a beautiful storm. Would you say it from your vantage point as well?
Yeah, Ken, definitely. It is a beautiful storm. You know, we're on the west side of it now. We're still on the back side of it. But I was watching because it looked like for a brief second, it looked like it was trying to potentially get itself a mesocyclone going. But you could see some of the raggedness in the clouds. You could see it trying to potentially come into a mesocyclone. But I really just think the cap is just absolutely eating these things up. But I mean, yeah, they're definitely photogenic. They're real pretty to look at. But I mean, in terms of like severe structure, again, that mesocyclone, I thought it looked like it was trying to come together, had some of those ragged edges to it, but it just was not able to do so. And even if it would still sit way the heck up there. So it's just really still some high base storms right now. That's probably just because we do have that cap at the Earth's surface right now. So we're still on the west side of it, but, you know, it continues on radar to, you know, drop off in intensity. And, you know, we're going to keep up with it because it is still in our area. We'll keep an eye on that. But, I mean, after this, I mean, unless that storm coming out of the south does something, I mean, we might be done for the night, but we'll see.
Yeah, we may be. We said it'd be for a few hours this evening, and that indeed is what we're seeing here. We knew it would be isolated, but thankfully, there's been some factors in the atmosphere that have kind of limited this, at least some. Those storms are still holding their own though on radar. I mean, there's still some decent hail signatures in there north of Coram and into the Duncan area. Looks like the first wave of hail has now shifted northeast of Duncan, and it's going to pass southeast of Marlow. And then the southern updraft will probably come through here pretty shortly, and that could just slap Duncan with a little bit more hail as it makes its way kind of off to the north into the northeast there. So we take a look here. Maybe a very, very slight bit of, some spin there in it, maybe north of Coram, but nothing organized, nothing that you would consider tornadic, so nothing that even remotely looks that way. At this time. And again, there's nothing down into North Texas, and we'll see if this thunderstorm coming out of Abilene or coming out of north of Interstate 20 can kind of hold together. You know, it's kind of got that look to it where you'll probably see some splitting that'll take place. This is going to kind of move up northeast, and we'll probably move east of Breckenridge. There's Possum Kingdom Lake, and then we'll kind of head up into maybe southern Jack County maybe. And then maybe over towards Wise County, maybe Monte County if it can hold together. But that would be several hours from now before that would do that. You know, I really believe that just kind of looking at the imagery here and the cloud bases and whatnot, that these storms just look like they've kind of been moisture starved a little bit today. They really just really haven't taken off. They've tried. But so often you'll see these storms and they'll become supercells and they just go berserk. But these just have not done that. So I think that like Cameron was saying, a little bit of a cap and a little bit of a lack of moisture have been a big part of that too. So only severe thunderstorm warning I have in place right now is the one over Stevens County, and it's these storms aren't dead yet, but they certainly are trying. So. Let's see if there's anything on here from the National Weather Service. Just some 1-inch hail reports there into the Duncan area. So, all right. So let's see if we got some questions here on the Facebook here. So Jesse Ortega wants to know, is Lawton in the clear? As of right now, you are, and I would be surprised if anything redevelops and heads up towards Lawton. I'm not ready to call the severe clear for everybody because there's still a chance over the next couple hours it could be a little bit. But we could, we could be looking at, a lot of the activity kind of dying down. But we haven't seen much, just a little bit here and there. We could be seeing this stuff beginning to kind of come down a little bit here. So that's good news. All right, so let's see here if we've got any other questions here. You're welcome, Brittany Strickland. And I do appreciate the kind words here on social media. So Kim Foster wants to know about the chance for severe weather here in Wichita Falls around 2 to 3 a.m. A lot of our weather information doesn't show anything coming in here late tonight. It kind of showed it yesterday, and some weather information suggests we still could, but I'll go low-end chance for a thunderstorm around that time. I think a lot of it might be just kind of east of us. Just early on in the storm season, which March and early April would be considered early on in the storm season, a lot of the activity is east of us. But as you get later on into April and May, oftentimes kind of as you get towards the the end of the main storm season, or you get towards the peak of our storm season, I guess should say, we wind up seeing a lot of the activity slow down a good bit, and we wind up getting a lot of it out our way and even further to the west there. So Miranda Morgan wants to know, are we getting anything in Bowie tonight? And as I said earlier, everything is so isolated that, I can't tell you that you are or you're not. I mean, the chances are not very high. I mean, you can see for yourself on radar there's not a lot going on. But there is this thunderstorm activity down to the north of Abilene. I don't know that that's going to be able to hold together. Remember, as it gets dark, you get a bit of a stronger cap. But if that thunderstorm updraft can remain intact and strong enough, I could see, somewhere maybe around 10 o'clock, perhaps maybe moving through Jacksboro and up towards the Bowie area. But again, it remains to be seen if that's going to, be able to maintain itself and survive. There's nothing out there other than that. And the storms up into Stevens County here at this time. And the storms in Stevens County are mostly now small hail producers near the Duncan area. So that's good news here. Remember, we do have a tornado watch in effect until 11 o'clock, but, again, I don't expect a whole lot. We'll just have to see what happens with these storms down to the south. And, again, they could threaten parts of Jack and Monte County late this evening if they hold together. A live look on Cam's the Chaser, the Comanche Nation First Alert Entertainment storm tracker just remains very high wispy storm bases. These are not very impressive. So let's take Cam live again. Cam, looks like these storms are weakening pretty significantly now. Would you say that's the case in your vantage point as well?
Yeah, Ken. Still have yet to see anything worth, say chasing, but worth, really monitoring. It's, watching. I've got radar pulled up, and the big thing with this storm is it's kind of been pulsing. You'll have a moment where your DBZs come up, where it looks like it might be coming down, putting down some bigger hail. Next again, it comes in, it's a little bit weaker. But I mean, I think the overall trend with these storms, though, is that they are, trending fairly weaker at this time. They're still putting out some small hail, I believe, just west of Meridian, Oklahoma, which, Duncan probably getting out some small hail here soon. But we're about 5-ish miles west of Comanche, and then we're going to try to take a north turn. But I think, once this gets to Duncan, we'll kind of let this one go, because it just hasn't shown any type of, like I just said, it's just pulsed up once again. So, again, it just hasn't shown any type of characteristics that have really shown it becoming any more than what it is right now. I'm not saying to let your guard down, but I've yet to see anything from the field that's got me overly concerned still, Ken. So, again, still the latest. Nothing's really changed. Kind of hold steady with this storm, just watching it pulse up, pulse down. But I haven't yet to see anything that really has this, believing this storm is going to take another step forward in terms of its evolution.
All right. So I'm going to pop off there. I do appreciate it, Cam. And just continue to stay safe out there. And we'll see what happens with these little storms down to the south there. You got a couple of them down there. If it's anything like the storms up to the north, you're going to wind up seeing these things split and probably weaken. But that's not a bad-looking thunderstorm there. A couple updrafts in it at this point in time, but it's lifting northeast up towards Caddo and eventually PK, and going to go southeast to Graham and may head towards Jacksboro. But if it does head towards Jacksboro, be about an hour, so around 9:30 maybe. And again, these storms up in Stevens County appear to be on the downturn here. It looks like as they get further and further away from the source, which was the dry line here in North Texas, even though the atmospheric conditions are fairly favorable for some severe weather, I do believe that the cap is eating away at these pretty fast. And since there's not a lot of forcing in the atmosphere, I believe a lot of these are weakening. So you're going to see some more hail in Duncan. But other than that, that's probably just about it there. Maybe some downpours, and there's a new severe thunderstorm warning for the Duncan area, northeastern part of Stevens County. That would be for that cluster of storms there. But again, that's about it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump off of my social media platforms here and the 24/7 channel here, and we're going to kind of give myself a little bit of a break, and we'll keep an eye on those storms up in Stevens County. They look pretty benign at this point in time, outside of some hail, and we'll see what happens with those storms down south and see if they want to play a role in our weather later on this evening here. But so far, they look like they probably will weaken. But let's just kind of keep an eye on it, and we'll see how it goes. And then later on tonight, we'll see if a cold front can do anything. But as of right now, that's a little bit uncertain. All right, we're going to jump off of here, this live stream on Facebook Live and on the 24/7 there. We're going to jump off there, and we'll keep